What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to the Neighborhood Podcast. One of the hosts of the podcast, my name is Kyle Dabra.
What's going on, everybody? Other half of the podcast, Kevin Valentin. Kyle, the day we have been waiting for since February has arrived. Week 1 in the NFL is here.
Yes, sir. And guess what?
How's
We had some fire games, and we're going to discuss some of those games upcoming in this episode. You ready to hit these topics?
Oh, I'm down. What we got on the agenda, bro?
All right, so we're going to start off with the New Orleans Saints just beating the freaking brakes off of the Green Bay Packers. The Saints won 38-3 in the first game of the year. The fact of the matter is that Green Bay, led by Aaron Rodgers, who just came off an MVP season, was held to 3 points. We'll talk about that game, and we'll talk about whether or not that if this is just one bad game from Green Bay or a sign of things to come. After that, we'll dive into the New England Patriot game against the Miami Dolphin game. It was the first game that we got to see Mac Jones. We saw him debut this week against the Dolphins. We'll talk about that game a little bit, talk about whether or not he had a solid performance in week 1. Then we'll talk about the Arizona Cardinals just obliterating the Tennessee Titans in week 1. The Cardinals won 38 to, I believe, 13. It was a 25-point win for the Cardinals. Chandler Jones was just a man on a mission the entire game. He had 5 sacks. We'll talk about whether or not him getting 5 sacks was more impressive or the Cardinals winning by 25 points against the Titans. And then the last game that we'll talk about for week 1, just from the Sunday games, we'll talk about the Steelers pulling out a solid road win against the Buffalo Bills. The Steelers won 23-16. We'll talk about just the main takeaways from the game because, to be quite honest with you, I was kind of surprised that Buffalo took the L at home against the Steelers, but it was a solid win for Pittsburgh. And then the last topic that we'll talk about will be the Ravens and the Raiders game that will take place on Monday night. We'll give our predictions from that. And we'll probably throw out some honorary mentions of just some of the games that we saw from this past weekend as well. So we got an action-packed episode for you guys. I know we haven't done an episode in a while, but we are back. And there's no better way to start this off than the first week of NFL football, and I couldn't be happier.
Oh,
So,
it's just relieving to hear that.
Kevin, it's lovely. Like, this is like the best time of the year. From here until February, it is going to be just wonderful.
It's the happiest time. It's great. Even though the Colts lost today, we're looking at the big picture here.
Yeah, the Patriots lost too. So, but I'm just happy that football is back and I got something to finally talk about. So I'm here for it. So,
Well, let's get it rolling.
like Kevin said, the first topic that we're going to talk about are the New Orleans Saints just absolutely rolling over the Green Bay Packers. Green Bay is coming off of an NFC Championship performance from last season. They lost to the Bucks, 1 game short of the Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers is coming off an MVP season, and they get absolutely annihilated by the Saints. So, Kevin, with the Packers losing this badly to the Saints, a 35-point loss, is this just one bad game from Green Bay, or is this a sign of things to come for Green Bay in the foreseeable future?
So, to sit here and jump the gun. I mean, I know I'm known for that in this tandem between Kyle and I, so let me not go out there and say I never do that. I do have quite a bit of hot takes, but I'm not just going to rush to judgment and say that this is this is what the season's going to be like for the Packers. Aaron Rodgers is still a MVP caliber quarterback. Aaron Rodgers is still Aaron Rodgers. We need to really circle here the fact that the Packers defense allowed 38 points to Jameis Winston and basically a litany of receivers that aren't necessarily big names. Michael Thomas is out of the lineup, and their leading receiver was Deontay Harris with 72 yards. Let's be honest. Aaron Rodgers had 2 turnovers. Yes. They had to put in Jordan Love because this game got away from them. Yes. Did the run game really get away from them? They had a total of 15 rushes, but when you go down that much, do you really run the ball anymore? Absolutely not. So I'm legitimately going to circle this as an embarrassing but one-time thing for the Packers because I do not think that Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers are going to tolerate this go forward and let this happen again. I'm not excusing the offense for their poor performance, but Aaron Rodgers doesn't play both sides of the field, and they still allowed 38 points. And I'm not going to sit here and make it seem like Jameis Winston lit it up for 400 yards. He had 5 touchdowns, but he only had 148 yards. So that leads me to believe great field position from special teams. They did a good job at running the football. They had 171 rushing yards on the ground, over 4 yards a carry. So when you really kind of work that in, you give Jameis Winston good field position, play action was strong, and you gave Jameis open receivers. What are you going to do here? Aaron, again, he doesn't play both sides. And when he did get the ball, they were down. He had to force plays. He had to try to throw people open. The receivers, I can't say that they were trying to create separation, but, I'm looking at the numbers here. Devontae Adams had 7 targets, and he only had 5 catches. He had one big play for 31 yards. Other than that, what are the rest of those 4 catches going to? A total of 25 yards? Randall Cobb, 1 catch, 32 yards. Mercedes Lewis, 19. Amari Rodgers, 19. This offense is still pretty much the exact same team. And you could technically say they got a little bit better because Randall Cobb is coming back. And you put up these numbers? I'm literally just, like I said, I'm circling the Green Bay defense as the X factor to be the biggest blame to this problem. Because if they don't turn this around, Aaron Rodgers is probably going to boycott this season and say, bro, I am not playing ever again for you guys. I know I'm joking, guys. I'm not literal. I know it's not possible. If he wants to sit out, he doesn't get paid. So by no means do I need the fandom to jump into the comment section and say you don't know football. But I'm just saying in general, if Green Bay's defense doesn't ship up, it's not looking good for them go forward. But again, it is week 1. Good for Jameis. First week without Drew Brees and God knows how long in terms of a season opener. So I think the Saints did a very good job at capitalizing on the defensive miscues of the Green Bay Packers, and the offense played great.
The one stat that really kind of pops out to me, Aaron Jones had 5 carries for 9 yards.
Yeah.
That's atrocious. And
Total team at 15.
And the thing is, this game did not get away from Green Bay in the first quarter. It was only 3-0 New Orleans in the first quarter. So, I mean, even at halftime, okay, it's 17-3. I mean, it's not great. You're down by 2 touchdowns, but I've seen a lot worse. And then I don't know what happened. Green Bay made no adjustments in the second half. Like you said, Aaron Rodgers, he's coming off an MVP season. And the fact of the matter is, he had a terrible game. 15-28, 133 yards, 2 interceptions. The team had a lost fumble as well, so they had 3 turnovers overall. And it just seemed like they just couldn't get anything going offensively whatsoever. And listen, I know that a lot of attention is focused on Green Bay losing this by 5 touchdowns, but you have to give credit where credit is due. New Orleans defense stepped up. The fact of the matter is, they held the Packers, let me get the stats right, to 230 yards of total offense. That's sensational. I saw a stat just on Twitter maybe about a half an hour ago saying that this is the greatest defensive performance that a defense has pitched to an NFL quarterback who won the MVP the prior season. They held Aaron Rodgers to like a 36 passer rating, which is unbelievable. So give credit where credit is due. New Orleans came to play today, and Green Bay had an awful game. It's just that simple. Do I think it's a sign of things to come? I don't know, though. I really don't know if this is going to be a sign of things to come. It could be. Because I don't think New Orleans is going to be that strong of a team this year. I think they'll be okay. I think they'll kind of be like middle of the road in the NFC South. I still think the Bucs are going to be the best team in that division, but I do think the Saints, they could probably finish second or third, depending on how Carolina plays, because I don't think Atlanta's going anywhere. But if New Orleans ends up to be a middle of the road team this year, Green Bay's really got to get it together. You cannot have this. Granted, I know it's week 1, and we have a long season to go. There's 16 more weeks to go. But 35 points? That's how much you lost by? That's a bad loss. And it's just, it kind of goes to show that, I don't know. Is Aaron Rodgers just fed up with what's going on in Green Bay, because at this point, I don't know if it's going to get a lot better if any sort of result like this is more frequent for Green Bay. So I, I guess to kind of like wrap it up, I'll basically just say I think this is just a one-off, but this defense has got to get it together, because if they don't, Aaron Rodgers is just going to get more furious with this team as the season progresses.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Sorry, guys. I was having an emotional outburst. I have Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp in fantasy, and I'm down like 40 points. Matthew Stafford just threw a 56-yard touchdown to Cooper Kupp, so I'm ecstatic. But yeah, no, I'm not going to panic. It's week one. I mean, God forbid we start panicking week one. We would not be out of a job because we don't get paid for this, but like this would not be entertaining for the first game of every year if we start panicking this hard.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm definitely curious to see how Green Bay bounces back.
They got to get it
Because
together, though. They got to get it
it's
together.
the defense has to get it together, and LaFleur's play calling has to get it together because you cannot abandon the run that quickly. I didn't realize I did the math completely incorrect in terms of the score by half. I thought it was 20 plus. It was only 17. So Kyle's completely correct. There should have been no reason why Green Bay did not run the ball. 15 total rushes as a team is unacceptable, and
Mm-hmm.
LaFleur needs to realize that Buffalo ran the ball, or excuse me, threw the ball. I think a league leading like over 30 some odd times a week, and they abandoned the run game, and look where that led them. They could have beat Kansas City, but two
Hey,
different total teams.
hey, we got to give Jameis some credit, though. I know he didn't have like the greatest like passing yard total, but for the
Five
debut that
tutties.
he had, 5 touchdowns, and he was efficient. He didn't throw the ball into a lot of dangerous situations. And the fact of the matter is, they got good contributions from the run game as well. They ran for 171 yards, like you mentioned, 151 through the air, and you held Green Bay to 3 points. If you're Sean Payton, I mean, you got to just be giddy about this week one performance. And hopefully it's kind of a sign of things to come for New Orleans if you're a Saints fan. So overall, the Saints were just phenomenal in this game. I know a lot of attention is going to be focused on Aaron Rodgers and Green Bay getting their ass whipped by 35 points. But the Saints deserve a lot of credit. They showed up and Green Bay didn't.
Yep, that's the bottom line. But bottom line in our next segment, Kyle, your boy, had a great showing out week one. Granted, it resulted in a loss, but I
Mhm.
would not say that it is his fault in the slightest. Both defenses played relatively well. It was a very low scoring game. So, I mean, my question to you is how do you think Mac Jones's debut went? And how do you think the Patriots are going to look go forward?
I'm actually pretty impressed from Mac Jones' week one performance. The one thing that I noticed about Mac was very cool, and he was calm and collective the entire game. And granted, a lot of the passes that he had just through the first half of the game, they were relatively safe. You know, mostly throwing the ball 5, 10 yards, nothing really too dangerous. But in the second half, I think he definitely got some confidence to open it up a little bit. And he was definitely throwing the ball a little bit farther downfield. I mean, he had some completions that were going 20, 25 yards. And his throws were phenomenal to Jacoby Myers. He had a nice touchdown to Nelson Aguilar. He was getting the tight ends involved with Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry. It seemed like he was distributing the ball very well. I think he had almost 30 completions to 8 or 9 different receivers. So it really shows me that he was able to spread the ball out very well in his first debut. And the fact of the matter is, he was very efficient on third down. The situations that he had on third down were relatively in his favor because most of the third downs that he had were like 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, maybe like a 3rd and 5. So he was able to complete some very nice passes, some very short passes, and let the receivers get some yards after the catch and make the first down happen. But with that said, though, the Patriots lost this game. And the fact of the matter is that they should have won this game. Damian Harris, with 3.5 minutes left in the game, had a golden opportunity to essentially be one of the best highlights for New England this weekend. And he had a great game before this fumble took place on the 15-yard line that essentially iced it for the Patriots. Iced it for the Dolphins. He had like 115 yards rushing, and all he's got to do is hold on to the football, and he fumbles it. You cannot let that happen. You are on the 15-yard line of the opposing team side, the game is well in your hands because you're only down 1 point. Hell, all you need is a field goal to take the lead. They were down 1 point, 17-16 at that point in the game. And it just ball security was an issue for the Patriots the entire day, and it showed up at the worst time possible. This really kind of gives me a very similar feeling to what the Patriots had last year against Buffalo when Cam fumbled the ball with like 30, 45 seconds left in a situation where they could have won the game at the end, similar to this one. You have to have really tight ball security when it matters the most. And Damian Harris, despite the fact that I thought he had a relatively good day, it's overshadowed by the fact that he had this atrocious fumble in the red zone when it mattered the most, when the Patriots were just marching down the field offensively in that last drive of the game for them. Mac Jones was completing some crucial third down conversions. Even Damian Harris, he had a very solid third down conversion on that drive as well. But you have to be solid with the rock when it matters the most. And Damian Harris slipped at the end when New England looked like they were well in control of winning that football game, and they let it slip. Not only that, the Patriots had too many mental blunders today. They had 8 penalties, 3 of which were personal foul penalties. This is the New England Patriots. This is Bill Belichick. And the fact of the matter is that this is one of the best coached teams that you will see. But the amount of mental mistakes that they made today is unacceptable. I know it's week 1. I'm not going to put so much emphasis on, oh my God, the season's over. They're 0-1. You might as well just wrap this season up. I'm not going to go that far. But the one thing that I'm going to watch moving forward is this team's situational awareness. And by and large, today, it was non-existent. And Bill Belichick kind of mentioned that in the post-game press conference. He kept that press conference to under 5 minutes, which really kind of goes to show you he was in no mood to talk. And I know this is where the bias is coming out. I'm fully aware of that. This is my team. But this is a game that New England should have won. And you take away some of the penalties that they had, Damian Harris fumbling the ball with 3.5 minutes to go, with the game well in reach for a possible win, they got to step it up. So hopefully they can kind of rally together going into week 2. But they're going to be disgusted by the fact that they had this game pretty much well in hand, but they let it slip. So you had to give a lot of credit, though, to Miami. Miami's defense played outstanding. They were able to hold New England to, I believe, 3 field goals within the red zone today. So that's solid. The fact that you could keep New England out of the end zone multiple times when they were marching down the field pretty successfully against the Dolphins defense. The Dolphins defense bent, but it didn't break. And they made some key opportune plays when it mattered the most, and especially that fumble recovery with 3.5 minutes to go. It essentially iced it for them. And that's why Miami's sitting at 1-0 and New England's sitting at 0-1. But to kind of bring it back to Mac, I thought Mac was outstanding. 29 of 39, 281 yards passing, had a touchdown as well. I thought he was great. And it's just unfortunate that this fumble by Damian Harris kind of overshadows his debut. But there were a lot of factors that went into New England losing this game outside of Damian Harris fumbling the ball. Too many penalties, too many turnovers, and just too many mental mistakes. So hopefully they can clean it up going into week 2, and we'll just kind of see how it goes from there.
I mean, really isn't much I can add to it. Kyle went into a really deep dive. Again, this is his team. He saw the game as much as he could. Unfortunately, this wasn't one of the games I was able to watch because I was at my girlfriend's house and we were watching some other stuff, some other games. And this just wasn't one of the ones we were really interested in. No disrespect to either team. But from what I did see, Tua looked a little iffy. I mean, Tua's got a lot to learn. I know a lot of the Dolphins season really is going to ride on his progression from year 1 to 2. Granted, there is no longer a QB job or a QB debate in Miami. Tua is the guy of the future. Brian Flores is completely backing his quarterback of the future, being Tua Tagovailoa. The offense looked relatively okay. I mean, they didn't really have any takeaways. I didn't really see anything from the defensive side for them to kind of jump in or catapult into some form of a consistency. I mean, granted, the total team tackles was 85 versus New England's total tackles was 49. So, I mean, they just about doubled New England in tackles, but they had no sacks. They only had 2 tackles for a loss. I didn't really see any takeaways other than the 2 fumbles from the running backs in New England. So, I mean, I didn't really see enough to really give me a definitive answer. Is Miami really that good, or did New England just really screw that game up at the end with that fumble? There's an excuse for New England. They have a rookie quarterback that outplayed a sophomore quarterback in Tua Tagovailoa. Tua did also throw a pick, if I'm reading this correctly, and he was sacked twice. So I'm just like I said, I'm not really going to reiterate everything that Kyle said. I mean, as a unit, the Miami Dolphins did not run the ball very well whatsoever. They only had 74 total yards rushing. That's an average of 3.2 yards per carry. Tua had the only rushing touchdown. So, yeah, I'm not really seeing anything that's going to really jump me into the catapult of, like Miami's going to run away with the division. But again, New England played very well, especially it being a home game. Rookie quarterback aside, their run game looked very healthy, and it looked like Mac did not have a problem distributing the football equally amongst his teammates. It's pretty much just a matter of can they get it going and get themselves into a rhythm to make a competitive AFC East, with Buffalo being the obvious favorite, but Buffalo losing in week 1, in which we'll get into later, is already behind Miami in the division lead. So we will see what happens go forward. The AFC East is definitely going to be a division to watch with these young teams all around. Obviously, they showed I think it was a fact on Fox while I was watching the Eagles game with my girlfriend's family. The oldest quarterback in the division is Josh Allen at 25.
Mhm.
Zach Wilson's 22. Mac is 23. And then, of course, Tua is also 23. So you're looking at it like every quarterback here is in their early 20s, and it seems like this division is going to be relatively competitive for the foreseeable future.
Well, it's that new generation. That new generation is coming into the fold. Brady's out. I mean, Brady was at the helm for 20 years with New England, but it really kind of goes to show that the AFC East, by and large, has turned over a new leaf. This is not a division that is essentially monopolized by New England anymore. I mean, New England won like 90 to 95% of the division titles from like 2003 up until like 2018, 2019. I mean, they just dominated that division. But when you have when you integrate all these new guys into the system with Mac Jones, Tua, Josh Allen, and now Zach Wilson, it's going to leave the AFC in a far more competitive element or space than what it's been the last 2 decades, because New England's just by and large dominated that division. So, like, looking back at this Dolphins and Patriot game, I thought that Tua by and large played a solid game. I know he had the one interception, but he didn't make that many mistakes throughout the entire game. I thought Mac was a little bit more impressive. And granted, that could be just a bias in me, but I thought Mac on third down was money. He was making some crucial third down conversions, and he was extending drives. And a lot of the throws that he made today, I thought were fine. He was smart with the football. He didn't really throw it into harm's way. And, outside of Damian Harris fumbling that football at the end of the game, there's a very good chance that either Mac Jones could have thrown a touchdown to win the game for New England, or Damian Harris runs it in, for a possible touchdown at the end of the game. It's just, situational awareness really kind of came into play at the end of the game, and Damian Harris just had that fumble, and Miami pounced on it. So I do have to give a lot of credit to both defenses, because I thought both defenses, both New England's and Miami's, were outstanding today. They didn't make those offenses, really score any touchdowns in any sort of consistent fashion today. It was tough to get into the end zone, which really kind of goes to show like how good of a defensive battle it was in this game. And I think that's what it's going to be for the foreseeable future. I think these divisional matchups, until really these quarterbacks kind of get a solid foothold with experience in the league, I think it's going to be kind of a slugfest in these divisional matchups for the foreseeable futures.
Yeah,
For
no,
for,
I'm
both, for both
excited.
teams.
I'm excited to see what's going to happen. Obviously, these two teams have to play each other again, go forward in the regular season. So I'm excited to see what matchup number 2 is like. I don't know the schedule, so I don't know when it is they're going to see each other again.
Mm-hmm.
But whenever that is, I feel like both quarterbacks are going to be a little bit more suited and comfortable in their season, a little bit more comfortable in the groove. And it'll probably be a better game, too. Who knows? Maybe we might even see a game 3 in a wild card game. So nevertheless, we're going to jump into the next segment here, which is going to be the absolute domination that the Arizona Cardinals completely produced over the Tennessee Titans. Obviously, the Tennessee Titans are coming off of a postseason performance with Derrick Henry and those boys, Ryan Tannehill. They acquired Julio Jones, and people really saw the Titans kind of repeating, if not having an even better season this year with the acquisition of Julio and obviously the coming out of A.J. Brown. So I don't know what happened here, but I'm not mad about it because the Colts lost. So this does bode well for us, at least in a division sense. But let's circle on the actual team that did really well. Kyler Murray had 5 total touchdowns today, 4 in the air, 1 on the ground, 1 total interception. But the star of the day, in my opinion, has got to be Chandler Jones. The man had 5 sacks in one game. Absolutely unheard of. The man was, like Kyle said at the beginning of the episode, a man on a mission. We haven't seen a quarterback do this. Well, last season, a Cardinals player, I think it was Hassan Reddick, he had 5 or 6 sacks against the Giants. So I can't even say it's been a long time, but it just seems Arizona has these individual players that have hot streaks. They just want to annihilate quarterbacks. So Kyle, can Arizona do it this year? Is it too early to get behind this hype train? Because him and DeAndre Hopkins almost looked unstoppable.
Well, let's hold up on the fact of, let's just focus on the game itself. Because the way that I see it is I think the Cardinals, I think they'll be competitive in the NFC West, but that's pretty much it. I don't really see this team going like all the way, possibly going for a Super Bowl. But today, bro, they showed up. Like, no cap. Like you mentioned, Chandler Jones getting 5 sacks in the first game of the year. I mean, just a couple weeks ago, he was demanding a trade. And
Kyle and I called that. Kyle and I said it with JJ there. He's going to pop off.
He sticks around, and he puts on probably the performance of his career, for being 100% honest. I mean, 5 sacks in the first game of the year. He's already a quarter of the way to 20 sacks on the season in one game. So, to me, the way that I see it, Chandler Jones is possibly going for a Defensive Player of the Year award at this current moment in time. And I know that's always kind of like a big topic of discussion between, someone like Aaron Donald, maybe like J.J. Watt in the past, or maybe like Jalen Ramsey. Like those guys are always kind of like in the running for Defensive Player of the Year. We got to put some respect on Chandler Jones here, because Chandler Jones, the last couple seasons, has just been phenomenal for the Arizona Cardinals. He is just one of those consistent pass rushers that is always putting up double-digit sack numbers every single year that he goes out there. And he's probably going to get to double digits within the first 4 to 5 games of this season. So, like, when I look at this performance, obviously Kyler Murray and the offense, they were just humming today. 38 points, just that Kyler and DeAndre Hopkins matchup, it is just money in the bank. And not only that, I thought the connection that Kyler Murray and Christian Kirk had today was solid as well. Christian Kirk had 2 touchdowns to go along with what DeAndre Hopkins had. He had 2 as well. So, all in all, just offensively, the Cardinals were humming. Defensively, it was just a one-man show from Chandler Jones. He could not be stopped. And I look at Tennessee. I'm like, where was your offensive line today? Giving up 5 sacks in the first game of the year to one guy, that's horrendous. So, Tennessee's going to have to pick up the pieces after this debacle that happened with their offensive line, allowing Chandler Jones just to run roughshod against them. So Tennessee's going to have to kind of get it together going into week 2. But by and large, Arizona came to play today, and Chandler Jones, I mean, it's very early to kind of put him at the top of the Defensive Player of the Year discussion. But with a 5-sack performance, that was the most impressive feat from any of the games that I've seen today, like when it came to just one single player. He was unbelievable today, and I got to give the guy a lot of credit and respect for that.
If Chandler didn't get the game ball, I think that Cliff Kingsbury is losing his mind, because this team did not have that veteran presence on the defensive side of the football. Chandler Jones missed the season. I don't remember if it was a pectoral tear or a bicep tear, but he was out for the year. And you can tell that this team needed to lean on somebody defensively outside of Patrick Peterson, who is no longer there, who's in Minnesota. But the point of the matter is, you now don't just get Chandler back. You have JJ on the opposite side, and now you have 2 veteran linemen that can get to the quarterback, and you have to pick your poison. Do I double Chandler? Do I double JJ? If we double both, it's man-to-man coverage for the rest of whoever's coming in at the quarterback, outside of maybe a tight end or a running back playing pass protect. So the defense needs to be circled here. They absolutely shut down Derrick Henry, and if I'm reading this correctly, Derrick Henry only had a total of 58 yards, averaging 3.4 yards per carry. Ryan Tannehill was 21 of 35 with 212 yards and was sacked a total of 6 times for 56 yards. His QBR was 17.7. I mean, With Chester Rogers, the former Colt, was their leading receiver with 62 yards. A.J. Brown, 49. Julio Jones, 29. Their offense just could not get it going, and that is in huge part to the defense. Chandler Jones aside, Arizona played great on both sides of the football, and then obviously the sensational offensive game of Kyler Murray being able to pretty much play backyard football with any defense that presents itself. Granted, Tennessee's defense isn't really known for their pass rush, but anytime they did penetrate, Kyler was able to really escape and kind of get out of the pocket, excluding that one interception, which is the total turnover of the entire team. Kyler Murray pretty much diced them up in every category. I mean, what did he have? 289, 4 TDs, and he had 20 yards on the ground with a rushing touchdown. So, as a whole, Arizona should be paid attention to. And again, last year they went on a really hot a really hot start. And then, of course, they went on that 4 or 5 game skid after after Kyler hurt his shoulder in the New England game. So, I know I said, do they have the potential to go all the way? I know that was kind of premature, but when you see a performance like this against a really good team and a former playoff team in the Titans, you look at them and say, wow, we were able to hold the offensive player of the year in Derrick Henry down to 58 yards. We held one of the more improved quarterbacks in the NFL to a total of 212 with a passer rating of 17. And you held one of probably the best wide receiver cores out there with Julio Jones and A.J. Brown to under, what? A.J. Brown had 49 and Julio had 29. The two of them combined had under 100 yards. I would say that there needs to be some hype in Arizona. They deserve to celebrate tonight. And I think that Arizona needs to get some respect, man. J.J. Watt, Chandler Jones, and that defense, that's going to be something to mess with later.
I think the only thing that I'm kind of keeping in mind here is the fact that the NFC West is so goddamn competitive. You got Seattle, who just did a licking to Indianapolis today.
I wouldn't say licking.
Okay, they beat them handily. How about that? Is that better?
They beat us. They didn't beat us handily.
I mean, it's a 2-position game, my guy. I know the Colts are your team, but still, like,
Tyler Higbee, 37-yard reception. Let's go.
Oh, okay. I'm happy about that. But it's like, I mean, to kind of focus on the NFC West, though, it's just you have the Seahawks, who are still a force to be reckoned with in that division. You have the Rams, who are probably going to beat the Bears tonight.
It's 14-20. The Bears went down and scored. It's close.
But I still have faith that LA's still going to pull out this win.
Oh,
it's just, when I look at the Cardinals, I think the talent is there. The thing that's going to be kind of a focus for me for the rest of the year, it's not the offense. If Kyler stays healthy and they're able to establish some sort of run game with Chase Edmonds, possibly James Conner, get some consistency from those two running backs throughout the majority of the season, I think it's going to work out well for them. It's the defense. Is the defense going to be able to hold up? And last year, let's be honest, they had some bad games. And, that's really kind of going to be the main focus for me is the defense going to be able to hold up? Because I think Kyler and that offense, I think it's going to be humming for most of the year. It's just defensively, are they going to be able to hold up on the back end? We just don't really know. But when I look at what Arizona did today, I was just amazed by what they were able to do, not only offensively, but defensively. They were just phenomenal today. I mean, holding Derrick Henry to under 60 yards rushing, that's incredible. Because once Derrick Henry once he really starts going, you're not going to be able to slow him down. And they just couldn't get into any sort of rhythm with him running the ball. And Tennessee was pretty much dead in the water. So I know you're smirking about something. What you want to talk about?
Cooper Kupp touchdown, Matt Stafford.
The thing is, I need Higbee to get these touchdowns and not Cooper Kupp.
Oh, sorry, bro. I was down 50, bro. I was down 50. I'm not down 50 no more.
I know. I'm losing week 1 in fantasy. I had a solid week, but, it happens. It's week 1. Put up like 175 points in fantasy and still lost. Like, not much I could do about that. But
oh man, sorry.
But no, like, do you think that Arizona realistically has a shot to like possibly win this division?
I think they do. I mean, you can't discredit them. Kyler Murray is a sensational offensive talent. You have arguably the best receiver in DeAndre Hopkins, and then of course you're sitting here. Oh, they took the touchdown away. God damn it! He's down at the 1 year. He's down at the 1 yard line.
Let's just throw a fade out to him real quick.
Sorry. It's first and goal. Yeah, whatever. And then you obviously have on the defensive side of the ball, you have two of the most elite pass rushers in the last 5 years. Obviously, J.J. Watt being over the course of the last decade. But you have Budda Baker as one of the best safeties in football, too. So, I mean, you have a young linebacking core and Isaiah Simmons. I don't see why they can't do it. But I stated it last year or just a few moments ago. They had that hot streak going really long for a while. And then they just like fell apart. But again, it was because Kyler got hurt. So
Mm-hmm.
if they stay healthy, JJ and Chandler stay healthy, I don't see why not. They have the tools. If I'm being honest, and I'm truthfully saying this like wholeheartedly, defensively, if they can repeat this success, I don't think that Seattle can repeat the success against what they just had against the Colts. We were missing our starting left tackle. We were missing our best corner. We were also missing some of our people in our secondary. So I don't necessarily know if the Colts are at full strength. I'm not going to make an excuse. God damn it, they handed it off to Henderson. The point of the matter is that might be the best defensive output that Seattle has all year. We all know their defense is atrocious. Whereas, dude, you had one of the best offensives locked down today by Arizona. And Tennessee was healthy. So I think Arizona can make some noise if they stay healthy. That's the biggest thing. You have two
Yeah.
injury-prone stars on the defensive side of the ball. They need to stay healthy, and if they do, sky's the limit for the team.
It's still going to be a tough division, though. I
I
mean,
agree.
competing against Seattle and LA, I just think it's LA's year this year for the division. I still think Seattle's going to make the playoffs, but I think if Arizona really kind of gets it together, could they hop Seattle? I'm not going to rule it out. It's just I have a lot more faith in what Russ is able to do for Seattle, just because, let's be honest, like, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Kyler is kind
He's
of
been doing
established.
it forever. Yeah.
Kyler's establishing himself as one of the better quarterbacks in the league. It's just that, you know, Russ is just humming right now.
Yeah.
And, but like you said, he has to overcome his own defense, which, let's be honest, it's not that good.
Nope. And
So,
sometimes we all know Russ gets in his own head. He has those 2 to 3 interception games from time to time, and
and
that
the,
cost Seattle a lot of games last year.
and the thing with Russ is that Russ will be good for half the season, and then the second half or the first half, depending on when he actually gets on his hot streak, he just tails off. And I think it's by and large to the fact that 60 to 70% they're passing the ball, because their running back core, which consists of Chris Carson, can never stay healthy. So, could Arizona essentially hop Seattle just because Seattle's offense does tend to get one dimensional? Yeah, possibly. It's just, outside of Budda Baker, though, their secondary is not that strong. Their
Yeah.
pass rush is going to be solid. It's just whether or not they can hold up on the back end with their secondary. That's really going to be the main focus with this team. I think offensively they'll be fine. If they're able to get some solid contributions from the running backs to kind of establish more of a well-balanced offense, I think they'll be fine. It's just a secondary.
It'll be interesting to see how the season progresses. But before we dive into this hole that we're already in terms of the NFC West, let's reel ourselves back out and remember that we do have to talk about this Pittsburgh Steelers victory against the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo. So the Pittsburgh Steelers go into Buffalo and Bills Mafia, and they come out victorious with a score of 23-16. Obviously, T.J. Watt getting that massive deal in terms of the biggest deal for a defensive player in NFL history. And they go and they show out. Pittsburgh defense does a lot. Pittsburgh defense, they go out there, they make life pretty much hell for Josh Allen on his side of the ball. And they keep him to a QBR of 40.9, which is just not something that we're familiar with seeing, at least as of last season with Josh Allen. But the negative here, once again, Kyle and I talk about this all the time. Buffalo became one-dimensional, 51 passing attempts for the Bills.
Yep.
They did run the ball a lot more than we've ever seen with 25 total attempts, but they could not overcome Pittsburgh's offense, kind of just going down there and doing what they needed to do, just effective football. Granted, Ben had a bad game himself. He only had 188 yards with a QBR of 28. So it really just I can't even say it was the offense. I completely misspoke. That's 100% the defense on Pittsburgh's side. Pittsburgh's defense had a total of 3 sacks, 5 tackles for losses, and they had a touchdown. That was the difference right there, truthfully. So I'm going to be, wow, well, Josh Allen had 2 fumbles. Devin Singletary had 2 fumbles, but Josh Allen only lost one of them. So, they did dodge the bullet. So I'm not going to panic, and I'm not going to go out there and say Buffalo screwed. The game was only a 7-point game, even with the 4 fumbles, and Josh Allen will bounce back. So we will see what happens. My thing is, can Pittsburgh play better than this with Ben being as old as he is and the offensive line struggling against Buffalo the way they did?
I think the thing that we have to focus on here is that through the first 3 quarters of this game, both defenses were playing phenomenal. The fact of the matter is the Buffalo only scored 10 points through the first 3 quarters, and Pittsburgh only scored 6 through the first 3 quarters. I don't know what happened in the fourth quarter, but apparently the defense just said, okay, we've had enough of playing solid defense. We're just going to let everything fly at this point, because Buffalo was able to put up 6 more points in the fourth quarter. But Pittsburgh dominated the fourth quarter. They scored 17 points in the fourth quarter. And on the road in a hostile environment like Buffalo, that's impressive to me. The fact of the matter is they were able to overcome their offensive ineptitude in the first 3 quarters when it mattered the most. They were able to put some drives together. I remember Ben, he had a nice little corner fade to Deontay Johnson. I know that because Deontay's on my fantasy team, and that was the only touchdown,
Mine too, thank God.
that I got from him. So at least Pittsburgh was able to get it together when it mattered the most. Because, to be quite honest with you, watching this game in the first half, it was tough to watch because neither offense could get it going whatsoever. Buffalo only scored 1 touchdown the entire game. So this is Josh Allen. Josh Allen is coming off one of the better seasons that we saw last year as far as quarterbacks goes. But it's like you said, 51 pass attempts. That is just too many. You have to be more balanced. I am glad that they ran the ball. They had 117 yards rushing. Devin Singletary had, I think, around like 75 to 80 yards rushing in today's game. So it's not bad, but they need to get more consistency with running the ball. And I'm looking at Brian Daboll here. Brian Daboll is the offensive coordinator for the Bills. And the fact of the matter is you're putting way too much pressure on Josh Allen to get it done. Josh Allen is a phenomenal quarterback. He has a freaking cannon. But 51 pass attempts? No. He only had 254 yards passing. So
That ain't it, Chief.
no. You got to give credit to Pittsburgh, though. Their defense withstood 51 pass attempts for Josh Allen and only held him to 250 yards passing. That's solid. And if I'm Mike Tomlin, I got to be just giddy about the fact that his defense was able to hold Buffalo, which is a high-powered offense. You got Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs. You have Cole Beasley. You also have Emmanuel Sanders. He came to Buffalo this offseason. Buffalo has an offense. And they got limited to 16 points. So I got to give a lot of credit to the Steelers defense for showing up when it mattered the most. That was a huge road win for them. I know the Steelers had a phenomenal start to last year, but they fell apart completely at the end of the season, and going into the playoffs, they completely butchered it against Cleveland. But they bounced back in a huge way here because this was a huge road win for them. And, maybe it's a sign of things to come. I know last year, the way that it ended kind of left like a bad taste in everybody's mouth with Pittsburgh, but that's a big win for them. I got to give credit where credit is due. Their defense played outstanding today, and Big Ben showed up when it mattered the most in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, we'll see how long old man Big Ben can keep that going. Again, like I said, his passer rating was absolutely atrocious. But as Kyle said, he stepped up like the veteran quarterback that he is when it mattered most. So that's going to kind of catapult us into the next part of the episode, which is going to be some honorable mentions. As we always know, there are incredible games all Sunday long, but we just, of course, do not have the time, the bandwidth, or the patience to talk about every single one because we'd be here all night. Kyle and I are exhausted. So, Kyle, what are some of your honorable mentions, and then I'll mention some of mine. Let's keep it to like a total of 2 or 3.
The first one, may come off a little bit different than what we discussed before we started the episode. The fans being back. That is just, I love it. The energy that they bring, it's just infectious. No pun intended. it's just I love the energy that they bring. It's just it adds such a dynamic element to the game. Kevin, I went to the Bucks game for the season opener last Thursday,
Good day for
and,
you.
and it was phenomenal. Like just being in the arena with freaking 70 to 75,000 fans in there. Granted, I'm not a Bucks fan. I'm a Brady fan.
Right.
But just the energy that they were able to bring, it was awesome. It felt normal again. And it felt good just like whether you were a Cowboys fan or a Bucks fan to see your team succeed. And the one thing that I learned from that game, Dallas Cowboys fans, they travel well. And they definitely made their presence well known in that stadium when Dallas scored touchdowns. So I got to give a little bit of credit to Dallas's fan base. They showed up. There may not have been a lot of them, but they definitely were heard when Dallas was making some plays. But just the fans being back, it makes the game feel so much more exciting. And like it feels like that like there's actual pressure again because the crowd plays a factor. I don't care what anybody says. When that crowd gets loud on third down and you're in a hostile environment on the road, you definitely get affected by that. So I think just the fans coming back into the fold, it's just phenomenal. I love to see it, and I'm here for it. This is just for fans to be able to be back in the stadiums. It's just wonderful. To focus on some of the other games though, are the ones stand out to me. Were the Eagles. The Eagles had a phenomenal win on the road against Atlanta. Jalen Hurts is the starter for this team at the quarterback spot, and I thought by and large played pretty spectacular. He was able to get Devontae Smith involved. Devontae Smith had a solid game for his rookie debut in the NFL. I believe he had a touchdown. I think they ran like a wheel
For
route
his
with him.
first catch.
Yeah, I think they ran a wheel route with him, and he was able to.
Yeah, Zach Ertz
to
on an offensive pick, but
yeah, he
Dak
was
couldn't find
able to snag it. So I mean, 32-6 is a dominating win on the road. Granted, I know Atlanta's not like the best team ever. They're pretty anemic as far as I'm concerned, but at least somebody in the NFC East was like able to like show up for once because last year none of the teams wanted to win. They kind of made
The
an
Eagles
effort.
are in first place now.
I Is it a sign of things to come? I have no idea. I think still by and large, this division is fairly weak. And even though that the Cowboys lost, they had an impressive performance against the Bucks. I mean, they lost on a game-winning field goal. I mean, that's kind of one of the things to kind of definitely keep in mind as the season progresses. But yeah, I got to give some credit to the Eagles today. The Eagles made some plays, and listen, winning on the road by 26 points. I don't care who you're playing against. That's a pretty impressive road win. So I don't know if it's going to be a sign of things to come, just because last year was just awful for the Eagles. But no, solid road win for the Eagles. I'll let you take it from here.
So then, since Kyle stole mine, I will just go out there and I will say I have two simple ones. First off, Joey Burrow's back, and he looked great. The Bengals win an overtime thriller as time expires against the Minnesota Vikings, 27-24. Joe Burrow did what he needed to do, and he put out some great numbers. Jamar Chase in his rookie debut also had a great day with 101 yards and a TD. So, happy to see someone like Joe Burrow getting hurt as late as he did in the year to recover from an ACL injury as quickly as he did. I am kind of scared to see that the Vikings did still find ways to penetrate that offensive line, even with their weak pass rush, and knock Joe Burrow down more times than he needed to be knocked down. So Cincinnati really needs to figure out what they're going to do because Max Protect just does not seem to be working in any facet of the way. And I think that Minnesota's miscues late in the game between the fumble by Cook and their inability to move the ball down the field in overtime really did not help. But the Bengals capitalized and they won their first game. So shout out to Joe Burrow. And the next one, no, I don't think anybody saw a total of 74 points to be put up between these two teams, with the 49ers getting the dub, but the Lions coming back in the fourth quarter, basically in the second half, realistically. 41-33 was the score, but at one point, I'm pretty sure that what was it? They were up. The Niners were up 31-10 at half.
Yeah.
And Jared Goff leads the Lions back within one score. And the Niners hold on to win. I thought that was a crazy game. I thought that we kept turning back and forth to that, and we kept seeing the score change on the bottom line. We were just like, Detroit scored again? Again? What the hell's going on over here? Like, Jared Goff came into that half, and he probably looked at everybody and said, these motherfuckers traded me. Just because I'm in goddamn Detroit don't mean I ain't going to play my ass off. 338 and 3 touchdowns. He did throw the ball 57 times, but they couldn't really run the ball too much with San Francisco's good D. So I just had to give them a shout out. Man, what a game. Arguably maybe the game of the week, because at one point I thought Detroit was going to come back and win this game, because it seemed like San Francisco's defense in the second half completely shit the bed and took a nap. And Jared Goff just looked phenomenal.
I do have to mention one more before we transition to our last segment. Who would have thought that the goddamn Houston Texans would be at the top of the AFC South after week 1? After all of the debacle that took place the entire offseason with Houston, with Deshaun Watson going through his sexual assault allegations, just them asking for like 5 to 6 players or like 5 to 6 draft picks in trying to trade for Deshaun Watson. I mean, going into this season, Kevin and I had no hope for this team whatsoever. We were saying that this team was maybe going to go like 3-14, 4-13, possibly even as bad as like 2-15. But after week 1, after all the dust settles, they put on a show against Jacksonville, who's, by the way, we saw the debut from Trevor Lawrence, and Houston made life pretty rough for Trevor. Trevor had 3 interceptions, and this is Trevor's first regular season loss in his entire football career. This goes back from high school, college, up until now. So Houston, I don't know how they were able to do it. They put up 37 points against the Jaguars at home. And I picked the Jaguars to win this game. I do this little
shout out
pool.
to Tyrod Taylor. He is nice.
I mean, Brandon Cooks had over 100 yards receiving. Mark Ingram was getting carries. Like, this team has like so many like old veterans on this team, but they were able to kind of put a solid performance together against the Jaguars. And we're talking about teams like Indianapolis and Tennessee as like the 2 favorites that are probably going to be vying for the top spot in the AFC South. But who would have thought? Who would have thunk it that Houston would be at the top spot after week 1? So I got to give them a lot of credit, being able to kind of weather the storm through all the adversity that they had to deal with this offseason. So good on Houston. It was a well-deserved win. They played their asses off, and I mean, to be 1-0, better than half the teams that are in the league right now. So, I don't know how long it's going to last. But for week 1, they deserve a little bit of shine.
Definitely. Tyrod Taylor's been disrespected pretty often in his career, so I'm not going to sit here and act like, he's been getting all the love that he deserves. Last year ending the way that it did with the punctured lung by the doctor, I don't even know how that lawsuit is going. But overall, I felt like he was kind of dealt a shorthand in Los Angeles because he didn't even get to play for the Chargers. And Justin Herbert kind of jumped right in there and just took the job because he just played so sensational within his first few games. So Tyrod comes into Houston not knowing what the hell the situation is going to be with Deshaun. He balls out week 1. I mean, I feel like Houston should feel comfortable at least to say, hey, if Deshaun doesn't come back, at least we don't have a useless, no snap ever taken bum throwing the football. So Tyrod immediately gives them at least some form of an opportunity to be average, because once they start playing good, talented teams, because we all know the Jaguars are subpar, that it might be a little bit different when they play competitive actual, like AFC and NFC teams. So we'll just happen to I'll monitor the Texans as I have to because of my division. I don't give the Seattle Seahawks an honorable mention. I don't give the Colts the time of the day. Carson Wentz played okay, played pretty solid with no left tackle. But that's all I'm going to say on that game. Shout out to Russell doing what he needed to do, throwing 4 touchdowns. But that leads us to the final point of the episode, guys. We are going to give a prediction on tomorrow's Monday night game, which is between the Baltimore Ravens and the Las Vegas Raiders. Obviously, the news coming out of Baltimore this last month has been nothing short of tragic. And I mean Baltimore is looking like the 49ers of last season between all the ACL injuries and all the season-ending injuries. Obviously, J.K. Dobbin goes down. Gus Edwards goes down. Marcus Peters goes down. I mean, who the hell is the fourth guy? Was it another running back? Like, it was the backup to J.K. Dobbins, right? He
Mm-hmm.
tore his Achilles. Like, it was just like injury after injury. They lost the three starting running backs on their depth chart within a 3-week span. So they lost the running back a week.
They lost Gus Edwards and Marcus Peters on back-to-back plays in practice. Back-to-back plays.
Bro, that gives
But
me goosebumps. That is
they,
just
they
not okay.
they ended practice because of that. I mean, to see torn ACLs this frequently is one thing, but to see it on back-to-back plays in practice, you know how like demoralizing that is for a team to lose. You know, the starting running back's already out for the season, and now the backup is out due to a torn ACL, and then one of your best defensive players on the squad goes down the play after your backup, who's going to be the starter, goes down with a torn ACL. I mean, like, I don't know what I don't know what to say. I really don't know. It's
There's
just
not much
absolutely
to
wild.
say other than the fact that there is still a game to be played tomorrow night.
Mhm.
So, Kyle, I'm just going to ask you straight up, who do you got and why?
Bro, I've got no idea. I mean,
What?
Josh Jacobs is questionable for tomorrow night. He's dealing with an illness, and the fact of the matter is that I don't know what the Ravens are going to look like. I mean, it's going to be Lamar basically on his own, and Lamar is decent at throwing the ball, but it's not his strong suit. He's definitely developed that aspect of his game from his rookie season, but going up against Oakland is just healthier at this point.
Las
So
Vegas, my friend.
thank you. I'm gonna keep butchering that. It's so
I can't get used to it either.
it's the same thing with San Diego Chargers and the LA Chargers. It is what it is.
At
But
least it's the same state, though.
yeah, I know. It's like a 2-hour drive. But when I look at this matchup, I'm gonna go with the Raiders simply just because they're healthier. I just can't rely on Lamar Jackson to put the entire team on his back, because when you're dealing with this amount of injuries, with J.K. Dobbins out for the season, Gus Edwards out for the season, Marcus Peters out for the season, all with torn ACLs. I mean, at some point, it's too much to overcome. And the way that I see it is that Oakland, I don't think that they're a better team necessarily than Baltimore, but they're healthier. And that does matter. So we kind of have to see what happens with Josh Jacobs. He's dealing with some sort of illness. He's questionable for tomorrow night's game. But I think this is going to be a relatively close game. I don't think it's going to be that high scoring. I think it's going to be like 24-21, but I'm going to give the edge to the Raiders here simply because they're healthier.
I'm going to completely go the opposite way. I mean, I think you're fucking crazy because Oakland's defenses was one of the worst
Oakland?
defenses in the – sorry. Damn, you see what I mean? You're going to be fucked up.
I know.
Vegas's defense was one of the worst in the league last year, and they didn't get many improvements outside of signing Ngakoue from the Jaguars. So I'm really going to go out there and say that Baltimore still blows the doors off of them. They still have Calais Campbell. They still have Marlon Humphrey. They still have freaking Jimmy Smith. They still have Lamar Jackson, goddammit. Like, what on what earth, planet, star, moon in the universe do you see a horrible team stopping Lamar Jackson from doing what he needs to do? I agree. He's not the greatest throwing quarterback, but the fact that he has that RPO option for a very spread out and very weak Vegas defense is, I think that's still enough, man. I cannot sit here and tell you with a straight face that they are going to be able to stop them because I just don't see it.
Well, that's why I had the game relatively close, because if Oakland's going to win this game, it's going to be a close shootout, like 24-21. But when it comes to Oakland's defense, all you have to do is essentially key on Lamar Jackson, because who's their starting running back for Baltimore? Do you have any idea who they're running?
Tyron Williams.
What, he was like
I
their
picked him
fourth?
up in fantasy,
He was
something
like
like
what
that.
their
Yeah.
like their
And
fourth
they
string coming out
signed
the practice?
Le'Veon Bell, and they signed goddamn Devontae Freeman. Two guys that just don't look like they got it anymore. Obviously, like 3-4 years ago, we were talking about some of the best backs in football, but we goes to show you hot one
But
year, you suck the next. So we'll
but
see what happens in the backfield.
I gotta factor that in. Just because when I look at Baltimore, they're gonna be relatively one dimensional with Lamar Jackson being responsible for 95% of the plays. Well, maybe not 95, maybe like 75, 80%. Just because I think the run game is gonna be limited. When you lose Gus Edwards, you lose J.K. Dobbins. I was really expecting J.K. Dobbins to have a monster year
A
this year too.
pop off year. I agree completely.
I think it takes the wind out of the sails for Baltimore. And to be quite honest with you, we both picked Baltimore to win the division this year for the AFC North. I don't see that happening anymore, just because of the injuries.
Hey, they will make it work. Again, I'm not saying the running back position is not critical, and J.K. Dobbins' electrifying play is not going to not hurt them, but they still do have enough talent on the offensive side of the ball. They still do have the former MVP in Lamar Jackson. He'll just have to shoulder the load a little bit more, and he's just going to have to deal with it.
Could it work out? Maybe, but
I think it's going to work out enough for this damn game. You're telling me the damn Vegas
I
Raiders are
don't
going to
know
go?
though. I
You
don't know.
really think that Derek
I
Carr is
don't
going to
know.
beat them?
I don't know. It's just the injuries. It just at some point, it's just like, it's
Yeah, but
one
they're
thing.
all injuries at one position
You
and
have
one
to
corner. You still have a Pro Bowler on one
you
side.
have to understand that losing all three of those guys, granted, like losing those guys on paper is bad, but it's the psychological impact is worse because the guys that are going to replace them, granted it's next man up in the NFL. Everybody understands
Always.
that.
Yeah.
But the talent gap from J.K. Dobbins to whoever the hell is starting at the running back position for Baltimore, you're going to tell me that, oh, it's going to be fine. They're just going to be able to, weather
I
the
didn't
storm.
say it was going to be fine. I said
But
they'll figure it out.
if they figure it out, yeah, figure it out, whatever. But I'm just saying that the talent gap between J.K. Dobbins and whoever's going to start at the running back spot for them, it's wide. It's pretty significant. So, and losing Marcus Peters, I don't know who's going to replace Marcus Peters. That's going to be a situation they're going to have to work it out. But still, it's going to leave a hole defensively for them. It is going to be next man up. So, losing those guys on paper is one thing, but psychologically, those guys not being on the field, it's going to leave a mark on this team.
No, I mean, again, I'm not disagreeing with you. I just think that they still have enough talent to beat the Raiders.
I think Vegas is going to shock it here. I think they're going to pull up a shocker here.
Tyler Higbee dropped a touchdown. Damn it!
Was he open too?
I'm watching the game cast, but it just says he drops.
Oh. You hate to see it.
Oh, God, I needed that. Fuck. Outside of that, guys, those are our predictions. Again, we are just super, super happy the NFL is back. We're happy to have content to talk about. Kyle and I are just excited overall because it's Sunday with football on the damn TV screen. We can't wait to bring more episodes to you guys. Obviously, we've been lacking in terms of content. Not really too much to talk about, even though that sentence makes absolutely no fucking sense. But we're excited. We got a lot coming up for you to close out the year. Obviously, football is here and in September. Basketball is back next month. October baseball is next month.
College football rolling.
We are just getting right back into sports nitty gritty. The fall is here, and we cannot be more excited.
The thing is, though, we got a big game this weekend, my guy, in college football.
Let's not talk about
Alabama.
it. Let's not talk about it.
You're scared, aren't you?
Scared is not the word. I'm accepting of the 35-point blowout that is coming from fucking Bryce Young.
You've already accepted that.
100%. Bro, we played FAU and we let them score 14 in the fourth quarter. I don't give a shit what anybody says. That's just not acceptable. They shouldn't even be a Division I program. Emory Jones has 4 interceptions in 2 weeks against 2 mediocre Florida football fucking teams. And the one positive note to our offense gets hurt in the third quarter and pulls his hamstring. Absolutely ridiculous. The one bright light in Anthony Richardson. His nickname is AR-15. That is so cool. And he's hurt. Again, we're not saying that he's out or ruled out for the game, but that seems to be our only offensive talent. And he's a fucking freshman. He's an 18-year-old, 245-pound freshman. And that's going to be our saving grace for that game. Alabama's firing on all cylinders. Obviously, we know that they blew out Miami and they blew out Mercer
Mercer.
or whatever. So we'll see what happens. Our defense isn't atrocious, but it's nothing to be impressed over. Again, USF scored like 20 some odd points, which should not have happened. And they went through 3 or 4 quarterbacks in that game, which should have been enough for us to absolutely annihilate them, but whatever. Emory Jones is going to be my biggest concern because straight up Emory Jones's vision across the field is subpar, and that's putting it nicely. He should have had 4 interceptions, but 2 of them were dropped because it's USF. So we will definitely see what happens. But yes, I do predict the Florida Gators to get absolutely obliterated by the Alabama Crimson Tide. And if by some miracle that me putting that into the world leads Florida to win, I will personally, you know what? I'm not even going to say anything crazy because Kyle's going to hold me to it, and then I'm going to have to do it. I just would not. I would just leave it at the fact of I don't think it's possible. But if it does, by some miracle of God, I will come in here and I will personally apologize, and I will have the roster for the Gators. Every person on the active roster, I will literally say I'm sorry, like individually. I won't say I'm sorry. One, I'll say I'm sorry. Anthony Richardson, I'm sorry. Emory Jones, I'm sorry. Like I will go down the fucking list.
And the coach too. You gotta
You're
mention the
right. You
coach.
know what? And the coaching staff and the training staff. Hell, why don't you just make it the goddamn football team completely?
Exactly. You gotta go through the whole
Great.
personnel too. It's
Well,
bro.
that's like,
You're gonna have to say like I'm sorry, like basically like movie credits at the end.
and you know what? Because I think it's not even close to being possible, fine. I will say I'm sorry one by one to every individual personnel on the Gators football program staff.
You know what's crazy though? That happened this weekend. Was Oregon going to Columbus, beating
Oh
Ohio
yeah, I
State.
forgot.
That was a
Yeah,
big win.
that was wild.
I mean,
Iowa beat
man,
Iowa State too. That
Tyree
was
and
a
I
good
were kind
game.
of talking about that Ohio State Oregon game, and the one thing that we were talking about with Ohio State is like defensively, they don't
They're not
have
the
it.
same.
No,
No, they're not the same.
no. I mean,
Stafford touchdown.
two.
It was to Robert Woods.
Well, that's not Tyler Higbee, so it doesn't
I
really
mean, I
matter.
have Matt Stafford, so at the end of the day, it's 4 points. So what am I supposed to do, man?
Exactly. But no, I mean that's gonna be the game of the week next week with UF and Alabama. That's gonna be
Yeah.
a fun game to watch.
Schedule on your calendars, ladies and gentlemen. It's at 3:30 on Saturday in Florida. It's going to be a massacre. It's going to be great. It's going to be fine. I'm going to cry by the time the second quarter is halfway through, and then, it'll be fine.
But you're gonna say the game's over by halftime?
100%. Bro, do you not see how good that team is? We not struggled, but we did not dominate 2 teams that did not deserve to be playing against us. We should have annihilated them by 40 points each. I don't give a shit how offensive that comes across. We are the Florida Gators, and we did not annihilate them. Alabama would have dropped 70 on both of them. They dropped 44 on fucking Miami.
They dropped another 44 spot on Mercer too. So
And you think that they're not going to go to look at the Gators and say, did you just give up 34 total points in the last 2 weeks? I think we gave up like 20.
mm, mm. So
So
no hope, no hope.
no, I will literally. I don't give a shit what Gator fan comes at me sideways in the comments on social media. You tell me with a straight face that you truly believe, based off what you've seen from Emory Jones and the lackluster performances of the defense in and out of the last 2 second halves, and tell me that we're gonna fucking do something with that team in fucking Tuscaloosa that lives in Tuscaloosa because we're home. No shot.
I mean, you guys are 2-0, right?
If we lost any of the games that we played, I would not watch a single Gator game for the rest of the year.
I mean,
FAU, really? USF, really?
I mean, you could be like
No,
Oklahoma. You could be like
no,
Oklahoma, and you could literally have the aneurysm that they had after they almost lost
no,
to.
no,
Who did they almost
no.
lose to? Tulane.
Tulane, yeah. No, I'm not doing it right now. Okay, I'm just not doing it. I'm not well. I want to go to bed, and I'm not going to give myself a preempted aneurysm before Saturday even gets here. I have 6 days to mentally prepare myself.
Wow. Well, just
But
hopefully
it does feel good that we had a full episode tonight.
I know.
because it has been over a month since we've had good content to last a full episode.
I know. I was just happy to be back.
Big facts.
But with that said, you guys, that'll wrap it up from here. Just want to take the time to thank you guys for tuning in to watch. If you guys watch the episode, or if you guys listen to the episode, we definitely appreciate that. If you guys like the episode, if you're watching it on YouTube, hit that like button below. And if you guys want to support the channel in any way, shape, or form, hit that subscribe button. Any sort of support that Kevin and I get for the channel, we definitely appreciate it. I'm going to be doing the next episode this week. I'm going to be doing it solo. Um, Basically, just to kind of give you guys a heads up for what's coming. It'll mostly just be focused on the NFL. We'll do week 2 previews. We'll focus on some of the college football games that are coming up this weekend. Probably dive into that Alabama Gators game, since that's kind of like the highlight game going into this weekend for college football. And I might even talk about the Yankees a little bit, because a lot of the times, Kevin's like the main Yankee guy that we rely on to talk shop about the Yankees. But um, I
We're
might
on a
do
skid right now.
I might do a little dive into the Yankees, simply just because I think we're overdue for one. Just gonna leave it at that. Just gonna leave it at that. Huh?
Don't get me started with those motherfuckers. 13 in a row to end it end the season basically on like a 6 or 7 game skid to barely beat the fucking Mets after I did all that shit talking 2 weeks ago. Gonna make me look like an asshole. Oh boy. I'm going home this week. Wait till I get home. You're gonna hear my fucking voice.
Oh yeah, you're
Oh
gonna go.
god.
You go to the Indians game, right?
You
Let,
motherfuckers gonna get me kicked out.
let Gary play. If Gary plays, Gary will personally hear Kevin.
I
I'm just saying.
sure. Aaron Judge left tonight's game due to dizziness.
Oh, ooh,
I don't even know what that means.
a little
This
lightheaded, like
this this, this is a smile of a crazy person because I don't know what I'm gonna do at that game. We're losing to the fucking Mets right now. What are we doing? We got swept by the Orioles like a week ago. I don't even know if this is the Yankees. This might be the Marlins. I can't even insult the Marlins. I think they just beat the Phillies.
this. I mean, you guys are basically playing like the Orioles right now.
Wrap this episode up. I think I'm losing my mind. I can't stop laughing.
I feel like you got like a little Joker. I feel like you got a little Joker in you right now.
Might be worse if we keep talking about it.
Well said. Well said. But like Kevin said, we'll wrap it up from here, just to kind of save Kevin from his own like mental issues that he's currently going through right now.
Ooh.
But with that said, you guys, thank you guys for tuning in once again, and we will see you guys later this week.